Bob Gallagher, the Mayor of the City of Bettendorf, Iowa. Today is Friday, March 1st, 2024. Welcome to our Community Development Department. Today we're going to talk a little bit about floodways and floodplains and why that's important to you. So for that discussion, we welcome Taylor Beswick from Community Development. Taylor, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, Mayor. Happy Friday to you.
Happy Friday. I appreciate you being here. Why is it important for people who live in the city of Bettendorf to know about the floodplain mapping?
So the floodplain maps are all mapped out by the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, and the city has the role of regulating the floodplain and making sure people are safe, risking from flash flooding from our Duck Creek or big floods from the Mississippi River. They also affect the price of your real estate on your property and how maybe monthly payments for your flood insurance policy.
So if somebody's in the floodplain, then they have to have additional insurance, flood insurance, that costs significant
Correct.
amount of
yeah,
money.
and those costs are rising every year.
Yeah.
It's a national trend from more rains and more.
And we've got the flood maps up on our website, so people can take a look at that.
Yes, be prepared on our website. You can go to bettendorf.org and go to the Be Prepared page or to the Community Development page, and we have our flood program page there. You can check it out. You can also check out how our flood maps are about to change coming up with FEMA's issuing some new maps.
So how often does FEMA take a look at each city or across the country and make changes to floodplain mapping?
In the past, it's happened over once a decade, but it's actually occurring more often because there's more data, with better elevation data.
Okay.
They're doing more studies, and there's more development happening in the city, so they have to remap more often. This map change is in 2024. There was a map change in 2021 and one in 2017. So
wow.
They are changing, so it's something you need to keep up on and to make sure you're in or out of the floodplain. It's something, if you're looking at new property, to really check out to make sure that you're getting a good investment on that property as well.
So when they take a look at our website or they take a look at the FEMA maps, they're going to see something called a floodway and something called a floodplain. How are those different?
So the floodway is the area of a water source that's going to be where the current is happening during a flood event. The floodplain is the area where water is stored, there's not as much current. From a development standpoint, we can work in the floodplain, we can do some mitigating efforts, maybe you can raise a house or do some filling, but in a floodway there's no development allowed, no obstructions allowed whatsoever.
And you see some of that filling happening down between Valley and Highway 67 there in Bettendorf, and those what used to be onion fields.
Correct.
Some raising to
Yep.
put some commercial or some contractor studio type stuff in. So talk to us about the changes and how it affected us here in Bettendorf with the new maps coming into play in April.
Sure. The changes started, the study started back in 2021. It was done by the Iowa Hydro Science with the University of Iowa, and also a consultant. They had a lot of public outreach to the communities. We were able to study these maps, make sure, ask questions. There was an appeal period, and now we're into the phase where we're reaching out to, educating property owners and saying, letting them know that if they're getting increasing floodplain on their property or decreasing. Out of 1,500 parcels that are being changed in the city, so floodway or floodplain changing, over 900 of them, that's over 60% of them, are actually just seeing a decrease in the floodplain.
Now, we've done a lot of mitigation efforts, not only in our ordinances and the way we let people build, but also in some of the physical changes we've made to creekways and other sources of this kind of a flood issue. Do we think that that's had some mitigation or mitigating effect on some of the changes?
Sure, there's a very complex modeling involved with this. There's hydro engineers involved, so they take in how water flows over land. They do topography is a big part of it. The trend of our development, keeping it away from water sources. Our stream buffer ordinance, for example, we have a stream buffer for development. So having those in place really protects development from getting in the floodplain in the first place. Then our increased regulations in our stormwater ordinance really help the water go to the streams at metered rates. All these combine to have an effect on that modeling. And then actually just some of the increased data that we're providing, the DNR is providing with elevations is also helping get a more accurate representation of what's occurring in the city of Bettendorf and Scott County.
So we've been undergoing efforts for probably a decade in this area, and we're shooting for a designation from the federal government so that we can help reduce some of the rates you may pay for flood insurance. Tell us about that rating. The
Community rating system.
There you
yes.
go.
So a community rating system has been around since 1990. It's a FEMA program. It's over 1,500 communities in the United States are part of this program. It recognizes actions that cities or counties or municipalities are doing that are going above and beyond what's required to be in the National Flood Insurance Program. They do this and they give you a score. So we're going through that process of being accredited, with giving a score. The higher score, the more actually reduction for individual insurance policies for every city and or property owner in the city happens. So the more actions we're doing, the more mitigations, the higher freeboard we have, the more educational programming, something like this, we get credit for that. And that's what we're doing right now.
And this all started because we have over 240 houses in a flood zone, and those folks were paying exorbitant fees for their flood insurance. So we went to DC, we learned about these programs, we took a team to see if we couldn't figure some of that out, and we've got some actions happening around the Duck Creek area in some of these houses and some of the bad spots that we've got. So we can talk to you some more about that at a future date. But the idea is that we're making these strides so that we can help the folks who live here spend less to live in the homes that they've had for all these years. Things change, and all of a sudden they're paying a whole bunch more. So we reacted to that, and I really appreciate your work and the work of the folks here in community development to help our residents, especially those who didn't really know what was going on, and then they're told, hey, you're in a floodplain and you've got to buy flood insurance because the map changed. These changes in 2024 are good for the community. We're being able to see the fruits of our labor, so thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor.
Appreciate it. Have a great weekend.